Welcome, crypto fam, to the #1 Daily Bitcoin Pod. In today's show, I'll be sharing the latest technical analysis as well as all the highlights and announcements you need to know from the Crypto White House Summit, which occurred yesterday. Trump turned crypto from the oppressed industry to the centerpiece of the U.S. strategy. That's right. We'll also be discussing U.S. Bitcoin Reserve prompts $370 million worth of ETF outflows. We'll also be discussing we have decided Bitcoin is scarce and it's valuable for the U.S. Strategic Reserve, according to David Sachs. We'll also be discussing Bitcoin funding, the Bitcoin neutral strategies for the United States to acquire BTC. Also, quoting Max Kaiser, buy Bitcoin, crash the IMF. Bitcoin is a self-aware angel sent by God to unfuck our money. Whoever gets in Bitcoin's way is destroyed. Bitcoin is God, just Bitcoin. And chill. We'll also be discussing breaking news. Saylor told Trump to buy up to 25% of the Bitcoin supply. And if you run the math, that's 5.25 million BTC for the United States of America, which would generate $60 to $100 trillion. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. All this, plus so much more, in today's show. But anyways, if you're new to the stream, important to smash the likes. Go ahead, subscribe. We're the #1 Daily Bitcoin Pod, hands down. Then ring the bell. Turn on all notifications to receive daily premium crypto newsletters every single day, 7 days a week, including Sat Stack and Saturdays, just like today. Today is pod number 1927. I'm your host, JV. It's March 8th. 2025. Another historic day. We just had the very first White House Crypto Summit of all time, 20 plus industry leaders all talking to Trump about how bullish they are about Bitcoin. Saylor proposed Trump to purchase 5.25% of the Bitcoin supply. I'm sorry, 20% of the Bitcoin supply. My apologies, 25% of the Bitcoin supply, which is 5.25 million BTC. We will get into all that. I'll be sharing all the relevant things you do need to know. But first, let's kick it off with our market watch, as we do each and every day. You can see Bitcoin correcting, which is crazy considering the historic news, which was just shared. But Bitcoin is down to 86,400 at the time of the live stream. And if you're asking, but JV, why is the market so down? Consider it a blessing from God. Stack more sats on Sat Stack and Saturday and shut up and be patient and watch the pretty little bitty going up forever, Laura. That's all I got to say. Ether, ironic enough, is up in the green, but barely. Trading above 22 hundo. XRP, Solana, the top losers of the day. We also have BNB, Cardano, and Tron correcting and in the red. And checking out coinmarketcap.com. The current crypto market cap sits at $28.4 trillion. The Bitcoin market cap, $1.7 trillion. We got roughly 73 billion worth of volume over the past 24 hours. With the Bitcoin dominance coming in today at 60.1%. Ether dominance making a little climb, currently 9.4%. Yesterday was 9.1. Checking out top 100 crypto gainers past 24 hours. We got Quant leading the pack, but very modest gains as the majority of the market's correcting in the red. Quant's only up 5%, BTT up 4%, and Maker up less than 3%. And as you can see here, just Rec City for the alts. And checking out the crypto bubbles, we get a visual perspective. Let's first start on the day, shall we? I'd say like 80% of the market in the red, 20% in the green. Zooming out on the monthly, sad to say 90% of the market complete Rec City, 20, 30, 40, 50% losses across the board. And checking out the Crypto Greed and Fear Index today, we're in fear at a 28. Yesterday, 34. Last week, a 20 in extreme fear. And last month, a 49, which is neutral. And checking out the time chain calendar, we have 163,108 blocks until the next halving in 2028. We're currently on block number 886,892. And you currently exchange one fiat monopoly dollar for 1,158 sats. I mean sats. I say stacks, sacks, whatever. But anyways, pick up some cheap sats, put down the gats, pick up some caps from my man Sergio over at bitcoincaps.net. Now let's tap into today's astrology for the broskies. You should be able to see here on your screen. Let me change the scene so you can see it even cleaner. There you go. So yeah, this is just a 1 minute chart. Clearly corrective here in the past few minutes. We're currently hovering just above 86.2. This is live and in the flesh. We do have a bull target on your screen, sitting at 86.6, roughly $400 away from where we're at. Zooming out from the 1 minute, check out a 1 hour chart. We do have a rising wedge formation. Then we started trading sideways. Currently, there is a bear target sitting at 84.2, which is a couple of thousand short from where we're at. Zooming out from the 1 hour, take a quick look at a 4 hour chart. And as you can see here, not really much going on. We ascend, we correct, we ascend, we correct, and currently trading sideways. Zooming out from the 4 hour, here's the daily chart. We're going up forever, Laura. There's also a rising wedge followed by some sideways action. We do have a couple of bear targets, one all the way down to 68.7 and a super bear target all the way down at 49,000. Zooming out from there, we'll take a look at the weekly. We still have the very bullish 124,000 cup and handle target. Unfortunately, past couple of weeks have been very bearish in the market. This week has been very corrective, even with all the bullish news. And tomorrow we do get our weekly close at around 6 p.m. Eastern, so roughly another day. We'll see how we close. And zooming out from the weekly, we take a look at the monthly. And the monthly chart, you can see March, it's still overall thus far in the green because we had a very explosive first few days, and then it's been corrective. Last month, a very corrective month for February. It was pretty disappointing. January was in the green. December, we had an itty-bitty red candle. And November was the most bullish Godzilla candle of all time since the inception of the Genesis block. You guys let me know your thoughts. Where do you feel the pre-low biddy is likely to take us next? I'll let you, boy. But anyways, next story of the day, let's dive into the first headline here from the Crypto Summit. Of course, after the infamous freeze frame. But yeah, headline here reads, Trump turned crypto from oppressed industry to the centerpiece of the U.S. strategy. That's right. And I also want to quote Max Keiser real quick. Without question, Peter Schiff is the worst money manager in history. He couldn't even run a shady Puerto Rican bank. And here's Peter flexing, and here's the proof of work. December of 2023, on the 4th, he wrote, gold is trading above 2,100 tonight for the first time in history. It's far more significant than Bitcoin trading above 40,000. Gold has completely broken out. It's in uncharted territory, while Bitcoin still needs to rally more than 60% from here just to make a new high. And clearly, that was the height of gold for the Peter Schiff Meister, and since then it's been womp womp crashing. So yeah, I agree with Max Keiser, the worst money manager in the history of the world, because he discouraged every single one of his audience who could have purchased Bitcoin to stay away from it and to purchase a precious metal which also has an infinite supply because they could continue to dig more from the earth. You know what I'm saying? So not a good look. Peter Schiffmeister. But anyways, back to the Trumpster. Trump has placed crypto at the center of the economic strategy, marking a major policy shift for the U.S. blockchain industry. According to the Crypto.com CEO, Chris, Trump hosted the White House Summit, which we're going to be speaking everything which was discussed of significance here today, signaling that he intends to make crypto policy a national priority and make the U.S. a global hub for blockchain innovation. That's right. The summit marked a truly historic day of the White House. And for me, it felt so surreal. Like, we're actually watching this. Like, are we living in a simulation, broskies? What's going on? But he wrote a very good thread here. He credited Trump with reversing policies like Operation Choke Point 2.0, which it did lead crypto and tech firms to being denied banking services. So let's not pretend it's just a big conspiracy, all right? Under the Biden admin, the difficulties of finding banking partners may indeed be a thing of the past for crypto firms after the U.S. Office of the Comptroller of the Currency eased its stance on how banks can engage with crypto just hours after Trump vowed to end the prolonged crackdown restricting crypto firms' access to banking services. The Crypto Summit also comes as two major bills await congressional approval. the stablecoin bill, and the market structure bill, aiming to help lift the regulatory uncertainty around the U.S. crypto industry. Chris said ongoing dialogue with the key regulators such as the CFTC and the SEC could see landmark legislation, and we'll hear from Nip a little later in the stream as he is the chairman of the SEC. And quoting him here, the impact of these regulatory frameworks being established will be felt across the world and will provide the necessary base to move offshore activity onshore and off-chain activity on-chain. The CEO's comments came a day after Trump signed the executive order on March 7th, which outlined the plan to establish a Bitcoin reserve using Bitcoin forfeited in government criminal cases rather than actively acquiring Bitcoin through market purchases. However, there is a creative way for them to continue to buy Bitcoin, which we'll dive into later. So with no direct Bitcoin purchases being announced, the bill added that the U.S. Treasury and the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, could make budget-neutral strategies, bingo, to buy more Bitcoin for the reserve, precisely what they're going to do, provided that those strategies impose no incremental costs on American taxpayers. One example of that, sell gold, buy Bitcoin. Do you hear that, Peter Schiff? Trump is going to sell the gold, which is allegedly supposed to be at Fort Knox, and buy the Bitcoin. Now, if there's no gold sitting at Fort Knox, we'll just print the money out of thin air, and it won't cost the taxpayers a dime. Plenty of strategies for you guys. But anyways, some analysts see the U.S. Bitcoin Reserve Plan as the first real step for Bitcoin's integration into the global financial system. Quoting Joe Burnett, the head of the market research of Unchained, the U.S. has taken the first real step towards integrating the BITI into the fabric of global finance, acknowledging its role as a foundational asset for a more stable and sound monetary system. And with Trump, who had previously highlighted his intent to bolster crypto innovation of the U.S., issuing regulatory frameworks takes time, and setting up the right regulatory tone will be crucial for the administration, according to co-founder and CEO of Ethereum, a regulatory blockchain infrastructure firm focused on institutions. And during the stream, we'll dive deeper and deeper into the announcements in which were unveiled over at the Crypto Summit. And if you don't know, now you know. We're going to be discussing these ETF outflows. 370 million, which isn't that significant, but nonetheless, Bitcoin ETF saw nearly 370 million worth of the outflows yesterday as investors reacted to Trump's plan for the U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve. And that's according to the Far Side data. The outflows indicate institutional investors were wary of the Bitcoin exposure after Trump's March 6th executive order. What idiots. I mean, what kind of Bitcoiners are wary? Yeah, I mean, which created a national Bitcoin reserve, but didn't instruct the government to buy Bitcoin. Disappointed the traders. Now, while Trump's executive order acknowledges crypto's role in global finance, the lack of fresh purchases disappointed markets. I think it disappointed day traders who were looking to do a significant trade on the day. I don't think any hodlers are disappointed whatsoever, but I digress. On March 6th, Trump signed the executive order creating the strategic Bitcoin reserve. That's major. And separately, a digital asset stockpile. So he did the right thing. He separated Bitcoin from the shitcoins, which is precisely what we were hoping he'd do. So respect to the Trumpster. They will both initially comprise assets acquired by law enforcement and other legal proceedings. The order asked officials to develop budget-neutral strategies for acquiring additional BITI, provided that those strategies impose no incremental costs on American taxpayers. Quoting the CEO of OneChain, this limited scope fell short of market expectations and resulted in considerable disappointment. However, Trump's order opens the possibility of acquiring additional Bitcoin as well, which we will dive deeper into later in the stream, as long as the acquisitions don't cost taxpayers, and there's plenty of strategic ideas proposed by Michael Saylor to do just that. That could introduce a new buyer to the Bitcoin ecosystem. Bitcoin spot price dropped more than 2%. Wow, a 2% drop. Oh no. Meanwhile, data from the CME, the U.S.'s largest derivatives exchange, shows declines more than 2% across most of the Bitcoin forward curve, comprising futures contracts expiring at staggering dates. Futures are standardized contracts representing an agreement to buy or sell an asset at a particular date in the future. Even without the U.S. government actively buying up the BITI, the U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve means other countries, and there's the bigger picture, will buy the Bitcoin, and financial institutions have no excuse. That goes to you too. Peter Schiff, you're going to advise and tell people what to do, and you're going to, turn them away from the greatest, most hardest asset of all time. We're going to classify you with Jim Cramer. It just is what it is, Schiffmeister. But the sell-off is a simple buy the rumor, sell the news event. I mean, what else is new? But there you have it, yo. What are your thoughts on all of that? Let me know. But anyways, next story of the day. Next headline here reads, We've decided Bitcoin is scarce. It's valuable for the U.S. Strategic Reserve. Here's the talking points from the crypto czar, David Sachs. Further elaborating on the U.S. government decision to treat Bitcoin as a special reserve asset, calling it scarce digital resource that could benefit the country over the long term. So I'm glad he was listening to us, right? The March 7th interview with Bloomberg, Sachs said, we have decided that Bitcoin is scarce, it's valuable, and that it's strategic for the U.S. to hold on as a long-term reserve asset. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Now, Sachs was referring specifically to the roughly 200,000 Bitcoin, which is currently in the possession of the U.S. government. However, he acknowledged the exact number of the Bitty held by the government is unknown. There's never been a comprehensive audit. Believe it or not, quoting him again, we're going to do a full government-wide audit to find out what digital assets we actually have so they can be safeguarded and moved into a strategy that maximizes their long-term value. President Trump's March 6th executive order calling for the strategic Bitcoin reserve and digital assets stockpile directed federal agencies to conduct a full audit of their crypto holdings. Good. Let's also fucking audit what is it called? Fort Knox. Let's also audit the IRS. Let's audit everyone and keep them accountable. What are your thoughts on that? Regarding the digital asset stockpile, the difference there is that the Secretary of the Treasury will exercise responsible stewardship over those assets. And he has the discretion to rebalance the portfolio or sell the items of that portfolio. But that's not true for the Bitty. With Bitcoin Reserve, the goal is long-term preservation. I repeat, with the Bitcoin Reserve, the goal is long-term preservation. Good to see and hear they actually finally get it. HODL be thy name. With the stockpile, the goal is portfolio management. In essence, Sachs and the digital asset portfolio strategy could include the sale or even staking of the digital asset based on the Treasury Secretary discretion. Sachs didn't single out any particular alt and cautioned against reading too much into Trump's March 2nd announcement declaring Ether, Solana, XR. So they ultimately took back what Trump earlier said about these shitcoins, and I find that to be hilarious. Quoting him here, the president just mentioned the top 5 cryptos by market cap, so I think people are just reading into us a little bit too much, said Sachs. Ultimately, a decision on which assets to include will depend upon a government-wide audit. Here's some photos taken from that historic day a couple of days ago where he signed the executive order establishing the Bitcoin United States Strategic Reserve. Game on. The industry responded. Trump's executive order and Sachs' commentary failed to provide the short-term boost of the big. Again, the only one complaining over this is probably day traders who are just looking for massive volatility up and down so they can win on their trades. As a long-term hodler, this is the greatest news we could have heard, that the nation of the United States is holding or hodling Bitcoin as a part of a long-term strategic reserve strategy. Now, Joe Kelly, the CEO of the Bitcoin Financial Services Unchained, shared markets may still exercise caution until we see the scale and strategy behind this accumulation. But the bigger picture isn't about short. Exactly, the bigger picture. Who gives a fuck about the short term? We're in this for the long term. Long term, aren't we? What will truly shape Bitcoin's role in the global financial system is clear. Well-structured regulation that enables innovation to flourish. With the right framework, Bitcoin's long-term impact will extend far beyond the price action, reshaping capital markets, financial sovereignty, and the very concept of reserves. Now, Arley, principal research analyst at Nansen, signaled out one sentence from the executive order fact sheet as being mildly bullish for Bitcoin in the short term. The secretaries of the Treasury and Commerce are authorized to develop budget-neutral strategies for acquiring additional Bitcoin. Does this mean some potential asset swapping, say from euro to the Japanese yen to Bitcoin? Fantastic question. Does this mean trading our gold supply for Bitcoin? Does this mean printing money out of thin air, money printer go brr in exchange for the Bitcoin? You tell me. Beyond the executive order height, she said the Bitcoin price action is being influenced by the macroeconomic factors, including the economy and potential changes of the Fed policy. The recent Bitcoin price pullback was unavoidable, as I forecasted at the beginning of the year, as the broader financial market needed to digest the impact of Trump's tariffs policy. Quoting Credit Suisse, I believe Bitcoin is currently in the process of bottoming out. In the near term, it will rebound through 2025 as more pro-crypto rules and regulations roll out. Now, they also believe the strategic Bitcoin reserve may serve as a catalyst for future nation-state adoption. Again, bigger picture, game theory in full effect, hence what Kaiser coined many years back, global hash war. How much Bitcoin is China going to buy? How much Bitcoin is Russia going to buy or get left behind? How much Bitcoin will Abu Dhabi continue to buy for the sovereign wealth fund? How much will Germany buy? How much will the other countries around the world buy? Game on, broskies. The U.S. buying Bitcoin, and then we'll dive into Michael Saylor's proposal to Trump to buy up to 25% of the supply, which is 5.25 million BTC. Then we'll dive into some live Q&A, jam out to some Shandy Jams, and celebrate the new Nippinator indicator. So yeah, headline, funding Bitcoin budget neutral strategies for the United States to acquire thy biddy. Trump's executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve called for a budget neutral strategy to acquire more coins, which includes adding more Bitcoin through asset forfeitures and possibly converting other reserve assets to crypto. Bitcoin, that is. The U.S. government maintains strategic reserves covering a range of assets and commodities. This includes gold, petroleum, natural gas, foreign currency, medicine, land, critical rare earth minerals, and even cheese. Who would have thunk it? The United States has a strategic cheese reserve. Mind-boggling, right? The most liquid of these strategic reserve assets are petroleum. Now I'm starting to really believe that Pinky and the Brain did take over the world. Remember the two mice from the Animaniacs? What are we going to do today, Brain? The same thing we do every day, Pinky. Try to take over the world. Well, apparently they took it over because we have a cheese reserve. And according to the U.S. Department of Energy, the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve has approximately 395 million barrels of crude oil. And as of February 28th, a total holding capacity of 713 million barrels. So put it into the highest and best use. Put it into the apex predator. Game on, broskies. And assuming a price of $67 a barrel of West Coast crude oil, this gives the U.S. Petroleum Service a value of over $26 billion. Data from the U.S. Treasury shows that the department currently holds 258 million troy ounces of gold, valued at over 10.9 billion. Let's just round up to 11 billion because it's sexy. Well, that's 11 billion that could go right into the biddy. The Treasury Department's convertible foreign currency reserves as of Jan 31st was 35 billion. Signum Bank estimates that the U.S. Bitcoin reserve can grow Bitcoin's market cap by roughly 25%, which is roughly $460 billion. That's like virtually almost a half a trillion. Send it. In July of 2024, Senator Lummis introduced the Bitcoin Act to the U.S. Senate, outlining a plan for the U.S. government to acquire a mere 5% of the total Bitcoin supply, which is 1 million BTC. And just yesterday, Saylor proposed for Trump to purchase up to 25%, which is literally 5.25 million BTC, which is our next story of the day, so stay tuned. The bill also proposed the U.S. government hold Bitcoin for 20 years as a hedge against inflation. Talk about a HODL strategy. In November of 2024, Lummis suggested converting some of the U.S. gold reserve, yes, to Bitcoin as a budget-neutral way to purchase the 1 million Bitcoin, which could have cost approximately $90 billion. Just do it. It's not going to cost the taxpayers a dime. Easy peasy. Done deal. Lummis previously argued that U.S. Treasury should convert some of the assets to purchase the biddy, but did not specify which assets should be converted. White House advisor Mr. Sachs also called Bitcoin digital gold and recently established the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, a digital Fort Knox, using his own terminology for the supply cap to centralized crypto. Sachs added, the scarce nature of the biddy sets it apart from other cryptos as a unique store value. Hence why the United States now officially has a separate Bitcoin-only strategic reserve, separate from the shitcoins. Let's fucking go. We're so winning. We're so back, brosies. And quoting Max Kaiser here, buy Bitcoin, crash the IMF. And this is a great post from the Bitcoin archive. It's hypocrisy for the IMF to pressure El Salvador to stop buying Bitcoin when its primary sponsor, the United States, is establishing and already fucking established a strategic Bitcoin reserve. President Trump, please stop the IMF. I repeat, fuck the IMF. And quoting Max here, Bitcoin is a self-aware angel sent by God to unfuck our money. Whoever gets in Bitcoin's way is destroyed. Bitcoin is God. Just Bitcoin. And chill, bruh. And if you don't know, now you know, broskies. And also, Max calls Trump Employee of the Month. So Trump, if you're watching this, go home and get your shine box. And I mean this with love and respect. Now for our feature story of the day, Michael Saylor just told Donald Trump to buy up to 25% of the Bitcoin supply for the United States of America so that they can have 5.25 million BTC. Now keep in mind that there's a finite limited supply on Bitcoin where there can only ever be 21 million in existence. So if you take 21 million times 25%, that's where we come up with this number. I'm going to break this down in deeper details. Also, we have to speculate 5-6 million of the Bitcoin is lost, stagnant, and gone forever, which makes it that much more scarce. Now, if the United States was actually follow the proposal by Michael Saylor, we could literally raise an insane amount of money, $60 to $100 trillion of wealth. And I believe we're currently like 37 trillion in debt. So this is a pretty big deal. Michael Saylor also just recently shared this at the White House Digital Summit, and I can give you the outline and cover all the highlights of what you need to know. But let's start right here from this post from Bitcoin Magazine. Michael Saylor advised President Trump at the White House Summit today to acquire up to 25% of the Bitcoin network. As you can see, number one, acquire 5 to 25% of the Bitcoin network and trust for the nation through consistent programmatic daily purchases between 2025 and 2035, when 99% of all the Bitcoin will have been issued. And number two, the strategic Bitcoin reserve has the potential to generate $16 to $81 trillion in wealth for the U.S. Treasury by 2045, offering a viable pathway to offset the national debt. And number three, never sell your Bitcoin. By 2045, the reserve should be generating 10 plus motherfucking trillion annually, continuously growing and serving as a perpetual source for prosperity for the American people for generations to come. Can I get an amen? Trump, hopefully you're listening to the Giga Chat. I think he's a very smart man. So let's dive a little deeper into this. This is a pretty big story. 60 to 100 trillion in wealth to be generated. So let's break this one down, and then I'll open the report that Saylor shared with the actual White House. So yeah, self-proclaimed crypto President Trump was listening along with government officials, industry leaders, and financial executives who are all in attendance at the talk of the future of Bitcoin in America. Saylor dropped the 34-page document shared directly with Trump and the attendees, laid out an entire strategy to restructure the U.S. financial system with crypto at its core. Here's the actual post in which he shared, in which I'll open up here shortly, but first I'll give you some of the highlights. The main focus here is to make sure Trump proposed strategic Bitcoin reserve can erase the national debt, dominate cyberspace, and turn the United States into the ultimate financial powerhouse. Saylor told Trump that the U.S. started to buy Bitcoin right now, and if they to do so, it could generate $16 to $81 trillion worth of wealth for the Treasury by 2045, ultimately a 20-year plan. With that same time frame, the strategic Bitcoin reserve could be bringing over 10 trillion per year, all without ever selling a single Bitcoin. America can control 25% of all the Bitcoins ever in circulation, according to the Giga Chad. Saylor told Trump that the U.S. must immediately start accumulating BTC through a consistent programmatic daily purchase strategy, in which I read to you. The goal, control 5 to 25%. 5 would be a bearish scenario. That's what Cynthia Lummis proposed. The Giga Chad is seeing the bigger picture. If they really want to be the superpower of the world for decades to come, you got to go full retard mode, Trump. You need to go all in at 25% and purchase 5.25 million of the Bitcoin. Do you hear me, Trumpster? Eric Trump, Trump Jr., Barron Trump, whoever's running the show behind the scenes, are you listening? Before 2035, when 99% of the Bitcoin has been mined, once locked in, Bitcoin's fixed supply long-term price appreciation would turn to the reserve into a perpetual wealth engine. Quoting him again, the race to dominate the cyberspace has already started. Saylor warned in the report, if we don't lead, someone else will. His argument was clear. We don't want Canada, Justin Trudeau, to lead. We don't want China or Russia to lead the way, do we, Trump? If the U.S. wants to remain the global financial superpower, it must own Bitcoin in massive quantities. It must. Not even a question anymore. Welcome to the first ever White House Digital Asset Summit. Last year, I promised to make America the Bitcoin superpower of the world. And we're taking historic action to deliver on that promise. That was one of the opening statements from the Trumpster at the conference yesterday, in which we covered all the announcements and highlights during the live stream. I was actually streaming live at the time they were live. It was pretty epic. If you missed it, that was a historic podcast. Be sure to check it out after today's stream. But anyways, China noted they have already moved aggressively into digital finance, and if the U.S. doesn't act now, it looks like they're going to lose the economic edge forever. Theoretically, they say China already holds more Bitcoin than the United States. Saylor also made it clear that the U.S. government should never sell its Bitcoin holdings. The plan is simple. Buy, hodl, repeat. Buy, hodl, repeat. That should be the next song, Shandy Jam. Buy, hodl, repeat. As the supply of the new Bitty dries up over time, demand will skyrocket. The price will climb, and the U.S. Treasury will be sitting on a motherfucking gold mine. Saylor's proposal also laid out an entire motherfucking framework for rebuilding the U.S. financial system around crypto. His plan breaks the term digital assets into 4 categories, por favor, making it easier to integrate the crypto with traditional markets. Number 1, digital tokens, corporate-backed assets used for fundraising and innovation. These would allow the U.S. companies to raise trillions through tokenized securities. Number 2, digital securities, tokenized stocks, bonds, and ETFs that would trade 24/7. Global markets eliminating intermediaries, cutting the costs. Number 3, digital currency, U.S. dollar-backed stablecoins issued by American companies to maintain the global financial control. Number 4, digital commodities, Bitcoin, which is designed for wealth preservation, long-term value of storage. Saylor, who loves the Bitty more than probably anyone else on the planet, referred to it as an asset without an issuer, backed by digital power for capital preservation and appreciation. And if followed through, Saylor believes that this motherfucking framework will add 60 to 100 trillion to the U.S. economy by the end of the decade. His breakdown is 10 trillion from tokens, 20 trillion from digital securities, 10 trillion from stables, and 20 trillion from the Bitty. The dominant digital commodity, Bitcoin, will serve as a global standard for capital preservation and appreciation, attracting trillions of capital flows, with the U.S. as the primary beneficiary. All inside the document. Saylor also called for an immediate and permanent end to hostile policies that are crippling the crypto industry in the U.S. Among his polite demands are the following: stop unfair taxation on Bitcoin mining and crypto transactions. Saylor argued the government should encourage, not punish, mining operations. Number 2, force banks to accept crypto businesses. Debanking crypto firms is a national security risk. Preach. Number 3, give U.S. companies the freedom to issue digital assets without endless regulatory roadblocks. And number 4, let digital assets move freely over the net. The government should not interfere with crypto transactions, and I couldn't agree more. The government should support, not suppress, Bitcoin and crypto innovation. If the U.S. takes the lead, capital will flow into the country, jobs will be created, and our economy will thrive, aka we can make America great again. It all starts with Bitcoin adoption. Let me know if you guys agree. Trump, who has now fully embraced Bitcoin, he gone full retard on the Bitty, has reportedly receptive to Saylor's vision. Hence why Saylor was there at the White House. His administration has already moved to deregulate parts of the crypto industry and encourage private sector innovation. Saylor's message only reinforced what Trump has been saying for months. The U.S. must become the Bitcoin superpower of the world, because there can only ever be one. Saylor's proposal also stressed the geopolitical risk of ignoring the Bitty. If the U.S. doesn't take control, as I referenced earlier, China, Russia, and other adversaries most definitely will. This is a matter of national security. According to the document, Bitcoin is the most valuable asset in cyberspace. Whoever controls it controls the future. The meeting of the White House made one thing clear: the battle for crypto dominance is already underway, with Trump in the office and Bitcoin at the center of U.S. financial strategy. The next decade could see a massive economic transformation, 60 to 100 trillion, literally at stake. And the only question right now, will the U.S. move fast enough? Let me know your thoughts. And Michael Saylor, again, he shared this infamous document, A Digital Asset Strategy to Dominate the 21st Century Global Economy, with Trump and the White House. And check the show notes below the video in the description to get access to it. When you open it up, it looks like this. And again, I already shared the highlights. It's a 38-page document, so I'm not going to read it verbatim, but you now have the resource in the show notes below the video in the description. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think Trump will follow through with the proposal from the Giga Chad and invest anywhere for the United States 5 to 25% of the Bitcoin supply? Do let me know, family, and I'll read your comments out loud, and welcome everyone to the Q&A segment of the live stream. And I also have one question. If Trump was to go full retard, all in, and actually follow the 25% max proposal from Saylor and acquire 5.25 million Bitcoin, just making that announcement, how do you think that would impact the Bitcoin price? Are you now starting to see 1.1 million per coin is not so far-fetched? Are you starting to understand Max Keiser's 2.2 million Bitcoin target in play right now is not a pipe dream? Are you starting to see the bigger picture? Welcome to the revolution. And welcome to the Q&A segment of the live stream.